it's got to have an effect on them. If all they're doing is staring at a screen, if they got earbuds in and they're listening to,
100%.
Whatever it is.
Too, and I think, one of the big changes as well is parents aren't in the home. These kids are watching themselves. So social media is raising them, and the parents aren't there to say, no, that's not right, or did you think about this? I remember when my son was, this is a funny story, I'll tell you. So Jill, the Lexi and Maddie were in the same class as Gents. Mm-hmm. And I remember, so it was first grade. And I remember Jill texting me, "Oh my God, I was just at school and Gents is in the hallway crying. You got to go help him." I'm like, well, why? Because they had the same teacher. So I go down there and he was sitting in the hall, like he was in trouble. He got in trouble. Mm-hmm. His teacher got him, whatever. He did something and the teacher put him in the hall. He was crying. He was sad. So I walk up. I'm like, "So what'd you do?" And he told me. I'm like, "Okay, well, there you go.
There's your punishment.
there you are."
Yeah.
So I walk, and me and Jill always volunteered in class. So, I was in the classroom a couple times a week. And so I went in, "What happened, Miss Martinez?" And she told me, like, "Oh, okay. Let me know if you need me to do anything at home. If you, or if it's nipped now." And she's like, "Oh, thank you so much." And that's how I roll.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be like, "Oh, poor girl. Oh, no, don't cry. It's okay."
But that's what we're seeing a lot of. We're seeing a lot of that. We're seeing a lot of kids that are pampered and
100%.
And I don't want to go back to the days really, and all joking aside, when I was in school. I mean, I was in first grade and had the separation issue of not wanting to leave home and go to school, and I'm by myself. I don't know anybody, whatever. And so I'm crying. Right. And cried the first day. Mm-hmm. Then it stops after about an hour and you're in class, whatever. So it kind of goes away. But the next morning, had the same thing. Right. The third day, I had a nun sit down next to me because it was a Catholic school. And the nun looks at me and says, "You need to stop this crying right now." And I'm doing the crying. She looked at me and bam, slaps me across the face.
Wow.
Yeah. First grader crying already and bam. I stopped crying. Right. Because I knew there's a repercussion coming. Right. It didn't really fix my, my fear or my concern or whatever it was about being in school. But that slowly went away after a week or 2 weeks, whatever it was. But, that's what I was accustomed to.
Right. Yeah. Well, and I think too, and I did get the luxury of, I created a lifestyle before I had kids that I knew I wanted to be as involved in my kids' life as I could. Mm-hmm. I still needed to have an income. So luckily I worked close from home, or during my daughter, I worked from home. So when I saw issues arise, I don't even think I wouldn't go show up to that school. So my son had more social issues than my daughter. But I literally remember, like, he'd come home and he'd kind of complain about things with his friends. And I would watch him on the playground interact with his friends. And they'd be like, "Oh, okay, well, he's doing X, Y, Z." So I could kind of coach him when he got home. "Hey, did you think about what your friends felt? Did you see your friend's perspective? Maybe you're, X, Y, Z." So it wasn't always like, "Oh, you poor you, blah, blah, blah." I was always like, "Hey, what's the other side of the story?" Right. So I always drill that in my kid's head. There's another side of the story. What is it?
Yeah. Yeah. But I think too that as parents, and I don't want to group everybody all into this one group, parents today kind of a thing, but but there are parents that are out there that are more interested in being a friend or, some type of,
friend.
Socially correct, not wanting to go against the grain, whatever that it is. But they forgot that sometimes being a parent means you got to say no. Sometimes you have to stand your ground. Yeah. Sometimes there has to be some punishment doled out.
100%.
Yeah. And I'm not saying, again, I don't want anybody to misread me because of my story about getting slapped and, and saying that worked. Right. I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that, corporal punishment. Right. Leave your hands off the kids. Right. If you're a mom and your little, pat on the butt and, better stop. okay, but you know,
Right.
yeah, you're not slapping anybody across the face. But that also doesn't mean that there isn't some type
100%.
of repercussion for
Right.
poor action.
Exactly.
And
Well,
we're
I
not seeing that
think
today.
you have to figure out with your kid what works for them. So, like, I'm one of 5 kids. I got in my fair share of trouble. Now, with me, all my mom had to do is say, I'm disappointed in you. And I just melted. Like, that was, oh my God, that was like 20 lashings, you know. My brother could care less. Like, he needed to get the belt. He just was so bad. Like, he didn't care. So, and then one thing that's funny so when my son was in 2, he's in preschool. And, you know, as a new mom, and I remember he was doing something in preschool, and his teacher had been there for like 30 years. I mean, she was just old school. And he did something to where she just looked at me and she's like, why are you letting him manipulate you like that? And I was like, what?
Mm-hmm.
What do you mean? And then once I figured that out, I was like, oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
So I remember whatever he did, like I took it back home, and all I did was took away his favorite Lightning McQueen toy away for the night, and that was it. And he learned I was serious, and I was going to do what I said, and I always did that. I always followed through.
Well, see, you just said it too, and that's one of the things that they have to learn it at an early age, is that you're serious. When you say no, no means no. No means no, I'm not going to go. No, I'm not going to break down. No, I'm not going to negotiate and meet you halfway. No.
Yep.
And they have to learn that. And if that trust is broken, then they learn through some type of repercussion. They're going to lose their toy.
Right.
Whatever it is. They're not going to do a sleepover. You know, no dessert tonight.
I just don't.
There's got to be something that says, because that's real life.
100%.
You go out. I can't go out here and decide that I don't agree with where the stop sign is at and just blow through it.
100%. And I would tell my kids that. Do you think your manager at your job's going to ask you 3 times to do something? No, not without a slip that you're fired.
Isn't that another issue too with kids today, and especially in the marketplace, in the job sector? You can no longer, and this is a truism today, and you just have to deal with it. But you can no longer just tell somebody, especially somebody younger, you know, I need you to do this, get this thing done, need it by tomorrow.
Yeah.
Why? Well, because I said so?
Right.
No, that doesn't fly anymore.
Right.
You have to now say, hey, I've got this project for you to do. You know, it's blah, 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 you know, whatever it is. Yeah, long explanation of it. And, you know, I appreciate if we can get this done by tomorrow.
Right.
What do you think?
Right.
You have to draw them in and get their opinion and their view on it. And it's because they were raised that way. Mom, Dad, somewhere along the line, stopped saying, hey, I need you to clean your room.
Right.
I need you to pick up the laundry. I need you to go to mow lawn. I need you to do whatever that it is. They stopped doing that.
Right.
It became when you get chance, if you've got the time.
Yeah. And that's just crazy. My sister's she's the dental director of Pasadena City College. And so it's a program, but it's a dental assisting program. So what she's seeing in her college students, you know, of a deadline, hey, by midnight tonight, this test needs to be in. If it's not done, it's a 0. Kids aren't even listening to deadlines. And then they, you know, give you a big long email, sorry, I blah, 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 blah. And then it's a big fight with her. It's like, no, that was a deadline. So it's hard. Like, you see this in adulting where you're not doing your kids a favor. No, you're not at all. I had a quick story. My son had a friend. He was a lieutenant in one of the local police departments, and so he was in charge of evaluating the new recruits. And so one of the recruits didn't get a very favorable report back. The lieutenant gets a phone call the following day from this guy's mother. And says, I just wanted to talk to you about this report. I don't think that it was very fair. I don't think that, and she went on and on and on about what she thought about it. Wow. Fortunately for him, you know, he didn't engage in it. He simply said, well, this is between
the department and your son, and I can't discuss it with you, period.
Right.
But the idea that she would
so
actually pick up
How embarrassing.
Yeah, because he's over 21, obviously, if he was a police officer in the academy and graduated. So he's 22, 23, whatever it is, years old. And mommy is still...
That is so embarrassing for both of them.
Yes.
For both of them.
Yes.
That's...
Yeah.
But yeah, you're just not...
I can't imagine if that
oh my God.
actually got out amongst his peers.
Can you even imagine?
That'd be...
Oh my God, I need your man card now.
and I really look at it that way too, that boys today, let's just say men today, are getting their man cards pulled away from them at a accelerated rate, and not just from school and life, but through people that you value, people that you appreciate, through your wife, through your children, through they're so restricted on what they can say, what they can do, that really and truly they're afraid now to make a step forward, because it may be the wrong step, so I'm not going to make any step. Whatever happened to man who would have took a risk, went out and took a risk?
So it's funny that you say that, because my son is now 18 and he has a girlfriend, and he's been dating her for a couple years. But me and my husband spent time, open the door for her. You're going to walk on the side of the sidewalk, just doing all the typical man things, pay for her meals. And it's hard because, this whole feminism. I just sat him down. I just said, I don't care if the girl says they don't like it and they could do everything. No. Because at the end of the day, most girls do. So, and I don't think you'd want to date someone that doesn't want you to open the door for them,
Yeah. Well, I think that there's probably a man out there for that type of person.
Right.
But I just know that most men that I know wouldn't like that. They wouldn't want to be with... Well, I believe that I love strong women.
And I'm a strong one. Like, what's funny is I am probably, like, when you think of feminism, I hate that word, but I changed my own oil growing up. I, worked on my own cars. I hung my own ceiling fans. Like, I am a total, like, I'll put the picture on the wall. So I am one of those go-getter, do-it-yourselfers, but I hate feminism.
Well, I think it's all in how it's handled. Because if you're really a strong woman, that means that it's not just strength in what you can do and what you say you can do, but it's also a strength on the inside. That's confidence. Well, you have and if a woman is truly confident of themselves and confident in their abilities, they're going to be okay with somebody helping. You know what's
funny? I got a flat tire on the 405 at 2:00 in the morning, and guess who I called? A man. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, we're a team here. We're not in competition. I could do certain things up to a certain point, and then you know what? I need a strong man to come in, and we're not, it's not a competition. And I don't know where that came from, that, I'm strong and independent, but I also like strong men.
Yeah.
Too.
Yeah. Yeah. And I believe that women need to be strong. I love to see strong women. I love to see women that are stepping out into the job market and taking over jobs that were at one time, let's just say, considered a man position. And I love seeing that. And I want to. I mean, my two twins, very, very smart. They're driven. They know what they want. They know where, what directions that they're going, but they're also very feminine too.
Right.
And while they're both capable and do a lot, I still get the phone call. Dad, this happened. Dad, I need to, do, or they'll call their brother, Brian, You know, something comes up. What do I do? What do I do?
Right.
They usually they'll call Brian when they're afraid to call me. That's
I was going to say they always call me first. Always call me first.
Don't tell Dad we're calling Brian. But yeah, I think, I mean, and even circling back to, you know, kids and what's going on is, you know, the women are, like, I think it's a great thing that women are out in the workforce and all that, but they're also, you're also letting other people raise your kids.
Well, yeah, and I agree. I agree 100% with that if you allow it.
Right.
I believe that I can go to work and still be a dad. Mm-hmm. So I believe a woman can go to work and still be a mom.
100%.
But it takes extra effort. You don't get as much time then to go do the things that you want to do. And I think that that's where the trade-off is. The trade-off is, okay, I got to work 40 hours a week.
Right.
And that's from 8 to 5. So my day is shot. And then, you know, but I want to get my nails done.
Right.
Okay, well, I can get an appointment Saturday morning at 10 o'clock to get my nails done. But Johnny's got a soccer game.
Right.
So what do I do?
So, and I think some of it, I'm going to use a word, being lazy. Like, we have a generation of parents who are just being lazy parents. And by lazy, being self-indulgent, where it's about, instead of, you know, listen, it takes a lot of work to discipline kids.
Yeah.
You know, the diapers and the bottles, that's the easy part.
Yeah.
Getting them, you know, to be good, decent human beings that have morals and respect themselves, that's a whole.
Oh, absolutely.
And working out, you know, the time that my daughter spends with me, you know, just talking about the drama, like, it's a joke every day I pick her up from school. She gets in the car. She's like, "Okay, Mom, I got tea for you." I'm like, "All right, what is it?" Tea meaning gossip.
Gossip stuff. Okay, gotcha.
But it's nice because that time.
That's one thing the girls don't do with me. I don't get to hear the gossip and fun shit.
Everybody else's gossip, not hers. So she's totally fine. But it gives me that chance to help go, oh, you know what? Maybe that wasn't such a good idea, or maybe like, you know, like, and a lot. This is the time where you're shaping them.
Yeah.
I mean, one thing that my mom did with me, even though there's 5 kids and she worked full time, and she always spent time with me, really instilling the importance of self-respect and honoring yourself. And that really shaped me and it's funny because it probably wasn't as much time as it felt, but I remember her spending just an hour at a time in my room when I was going through, you know, drama in high school. And that really shaped me to respect myself, to love myself, and grow me into a strong woman that wanted to pass that to my daughter.
And back then, and you're not that old to where it was that long ago, but it was long enough that it was prior to the social media. Mm-hmm. And I think that it was much easier back then to respect yourself.
Yes.
I think it was much easier for you to have confidence and hold your head up because you weren't mirrored against a million other girls that you're watching on Instagram or TikTok or whatever, and comparing yourself to that. Where do I stack up? And typically, most people, you know, if you know, feminists will hate this, but you know, it's like where you know, a woman could be a 10, a woman could be an 8, a woman could be a 7. So there, you know, there's this grading system. But let's just say that I were to ask a young girl that is, let's just say, an 8 in the scale of 1 to 10, which is stupid. I don't want anybody getting the idea that I go, you know, telling her, I'm not condoning that and telling everybody that you're, you know, down to a number. You're a they, not a number. But a girl could be, let's say, an 8, and you ask her, oh, I'm probably a 5.
Oh, 100%.
Or 4. Their idea of them visually is their self-esteem is so low. And it's because I believe social media is comparing them.
I think, listen, like in high school, I had a friend who literally was a model. She's beautiful. Like already in high school, had, you know, magazines, gorgeous. Her self-worth was a 0. I mean, give it up to any guy that walked her way, like 0 self-respect. And I mean, the one thing that I always did, I mean, I probably saw myself as a 5 or a 6, but I walked around acting like I was a 10 because my mom taught me, respect yourself. So people I gave off that aura, no, you're going to respect me. And I was like a total tomboy. I hung out with all the guys. Some of them take drugs. They knew, don't bring that around me. So I put up a certain vibe. I mean, but inside I'm just as insecure.
And I think that's a great point too, is that your self-esteem doesn't come from beauty.
No.
At all.
100%.
It comes from inside. It's how you view yourself in the world. Or do you view yourself as being smart? Do you view yourself as being confident? Do you view yourself as being, social? Do you, are you, hardworking? Are you, whatever that it is, those are the values that create the self-esteem. Because I'm with you. I have seen some very beautiful, people,
gorgeous, like drop dead, like
men, women, whatever, that are just very, very handsome, very or very beautiful, or whatever the case may be, and yet have zero self-esteem.
Right.
And
which is such a turnoff. It's such a turnoff because, first of all, they're completely easily manipulated.
Right.
They're usually in horrible relationships. Because they don't have any value. I mean, I would rather be, and I'm a Girl Scout leader, so this is one of the lessons that I try to teach my girls. So if anything, I'm out in the community trying to teach. I mean, I only have 12, but if I could at least instill these kind of, values in the girls, okay, at least that's 12 of them out there.
Yeah, but it'll quantify in itself. Because if you do a good job with those 12, they're going to do good with another 12. That so.
Exactly, but if you have that confidence and you respect yourself, you're going to attract those types of people that respect you into your life.
Exactly.
And then you don't have, just the abuse and the, all that comes along with having no respect for yourself.
Yeah. And that's the sad part of today, where we're seeing so many, young boys and young girls that are, I think, pretending to have that confidence, but
100%.
But when you watch it, it breaks down quickly.
Just my daughter's in junior high, and already, you get she's getting pictures of all kinds of things you can imagine. Pictures of themselves, girls. I mean, so one of the girls, they airdrop pictures of themselves. In unflattering positions, or they're basically taking selfies of themselves naked and all that stuff. Girls, young, junior high. And I just tell my daughter, I'm like, how could they just disrespect themselves that much? So now you have everyone laughing behind her back at the carnival because they know, they know about these pictures that are going around, and it's so sad to me.
Yeah,
it's sad to me.
But again, it has its roots in the social media. First of all, it would never have been happening without the social media as a vehicle to post those types of things. But also too, when you do go on social media, it's not uncommon. If you're on Instagram, for example, and my Instagram has a lot of surfing, has a lot of outrigger canoe, has a lot of workout stuff. And so, that's I watch, and then you'll see a reel, and the reel is about, there's a famous surf spot in Portugal called Nazir, and it's, some guy just rode a 115-foot wave. It's just crazy. So I'll see something like that, and then I'll flip over to whatever the next reel is. Right. And then there's some girl that is shaking her ass, or tight shirt with, and they give you this thing, and then what they're doing is they're saying, if you like what you see, or if you're interested or whatever, go to my site. And then apparently at the site, they charge for more revealing type pictures.
The OnlyFans.
And then you'll see some of these reels, and the girls are talking about how I have 30,000 followers at $9 each a month.
Right.
You know, so it makes it sound like, okay, these girls are making a gazillion dollars a month.
It's basically prostitution, right?
Yeah, and again,
and they don't even get it.
No.
If you said that to them, they'd be like, "What do you mean?"
Yeah,
you're selling yourself.
Yeah, and again, that goes to, okay, where is your self-esteem?
Exactly.
How is that how you? And when you talk to women about it, that say like a feminist, you know, that they stand up for it and say she has the right. It's her body.
Right.
Okay, but don't you see what that's doing to women on the other side? Where do they draw the line?
Right. So, Brian, you might have to edit this out later, but my mom had a saying that she'd tell me, and she'd say, "Dress like a lady, get treated like a lady. Dress like a whore, get treated like a whore." Mm-hmm. And there's something to that. Sure. It's true. I mean, yeah, you could wear whatever you want, but if you're wearing mini skirts and your boobs are hanging out, you are giving a look to the world that gives off a vibe. Mm-hmm. If you're in a nice dress pants suit, you're giving off a vibe.
Yeah.
So you could hate it all you want, but there's truth to it.
Yeah, there absolutely is. And I think that what's happened is that there is no more middle ground.
Right.
It's one or the other. You're the right or you're left.
Right.
You know, and so there's no balance there. Mm-hmm. You know, you're not going to, nobody's going to give you accolades for being down the middle.
Right.
And yet that's,
right.
If people would stop and think, that's where 90% of the population is.
Right.
We're all sitting there.
Right.
We're not all on the far right. We're not on the far left.
Exactly.
You know, I don't agree with all the things that are going on the left. But then again, I'm not agreeing with everything that's out there on the right either. Right. You know, I'm not associated with either side.
Right.
I'm someplace in the middle.
But the one thing that I think is so important for, you know, for anyone, your reputation is so important. Like it or hate it, it's with you forever. Mm-hmm. So once you give that reputation, you know, like this poor girl, you know, I've known her since she was in kindergarten because I volunteered at school, and forever until she goes off to college and meets new friends, she's going to be known as that. Yeah. For the rest of her middle school and high school career.
Yeah, and people don't want to hear it. I listened to a podcast a few weeks back, and there was a lady that was on there, and she's now married, happily married for a number of years. She just had her first baby. She's a successful businesswoman, and then she started talking about her life earlier on, and she goes, "Oh my God, if you ever thought about how you love to reach back and take something back and turn it around." And she said that was her. She says she was such a strong feminist and standing up for the movement, and, you know, wouldn't listen, wouldn't do anything. Now she looks back and from where she was then to where she is now, she's strong. She has a good, strong business. But she's happily married. She's happy to be a mom. She worries about what her child's going to be like. And, you know, so there's balance. Right. You know, you have to find it.
I mean, I think the worst thing that happened to feminism is feminism. Mm-hmm. You know, we came so far, you know, give us our voting rights, give us this, give us
some of the most important changes in
you guys,
life.
We did it. Yeah, we're here. Yeah. Like, you could do anything. Tell me, like, you know, I mean, I see, you know, marches and women's marches. Okay, well, what are you marching for? What do you want? Yeah. Well, I want to be equal. Okay. How are you not equal right now?
True.
I inquiring minds want to know. I'm a woman. Tell me, what am I missing?
Yeah. What was that? What was that?
What is I don't have?
What was that movement during the Black Lives Matter movement? But there was a whole feminist movement going on back then too.
Wearing hats.
Was that? Yeah. And I can remember listening to an interview where they were asking, "Why are you marching?"
They couldn't answer.
They couldn't answer it. No. They were just out there to be out there, just to be out there.
They literally cannot tell you. So it's funny. So during those marches, you have your Facebook memories, and I put up a post. I said, I'm marching with a woman today. I'm marching my butt to my business, and I'm going to work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm going to go be a parent today. I'm going to go be a mom. I'm going to go sit in my house. Thought about what am I marching for?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not missing anything.
What more is there?
I don't know.
Only thing
I really, truly would like someone to answer that question.
The only thing I can see that it's still out there, it isn't so much about equality. It isn't so much about where they, want to be, or there's another level or whatever it is. I think it's also a lot now about breaking down the male. Let's knock that down a few notches. Let's, and I'm going to say this, some of it is deserved on our part, the way that some men have acted, but that's not all men.
But that is so few and far between.
Yeah,
that's like...
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, Harvey Weinstein was one
it's just
one of a million,
right.
maybe.
It's like, Kayla, I'll just say it. We might have to edit this out. I don't know. But the poor white male, oh my gosh. I can't even imagine being a white male right now.
Yeah.
Like, here you guys are blamed for everything. It's just like, why? Because we go to work and we support our families. Like, I feel so sorry for men. Like they say the whole women's, what about the men? I mean, they run themselves to the ground, working, and I think you guys suffer in silence.
Well, I think what that is that there are definitely white male men that have been in some prominent positions that have been reckless, bad decision making, immoral, choose. And it's been kind of laid over on the top of all white males.
Right.
I go to work every day. Been going to work every day for 50 years and working with a huge group of people, both white, Hispanic, Black, Asian, Middle East, doesn't matter.
No.
Doesn't matter.
Right.
We're all the same. When we go to work, we're all the same. We
right.
all talk together. We all get along together.
Right.
We're all figuring out solutions to
100%.
Problems together.
100%.
And so when I hear these things against a particular group,
right.
To me, it has no basis.
None.
You're grouping
right.
every single male into
right.
one bag.
Well, and I think, men in general are getting a horrible rap, right? Yeah. And again, I think that men have just literally suffered in silence for decades because, you go to work, you support the family, and you guys just suck it up and take it. You don't tell your emotions. You don't tell how you feel. You just do your 9 to 5 or you probably way more than that. But
part of that too is, and honestly, is because the male human is very simplistic.
Right.
Very simplistic. Right. Me, I'm going to go to work. I'm going to work hard all day. I'm going to make a living. I'm going to take care of my family. I'm going to make sure they have a nice place, make sure we have food, take care of the bills. And on the weekend, I'm going to go paddle my outrigger canoe.
Right.
That's it.
Right.
That's it. I get to go paddle. I get to do a little podcasting. My family is happy. They're healthy. They're doing everything. I'm a happy man.
Right.
They're men by nature, and they don't all have to do the same thing, but they just want to go play golf. They just want to go to a football game.
Right.
They just want to, whatever that it is all that they want to do.
Right.
But there have been men ahead of us or around us on the, on the outside that aren't thinking that way.
But there's just as manipulative women through history that have done just as dirty of things. I just think it's silly to just do this. Again, I'm going to go back to word team.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Absolutely. Like this whole division of pitting each other is just crazy to me. Because it's like we're so opposites on what our talents are that when they come together, it's so perfect, right? I mean, yin
I'm
yang.
going to say this, and that is that there are way more really good men out there in the world than there are
100%.
mean or manipulative, angry, you know, whatever type of men. One of my biggest complaints about men isn't about going to work, not going to work. It's about, I think our divorce rate is, I don't know, what's the divorce rate?
It's pretty high.
Right now? Is it, I heard something like it was 60%.
I believe it.
Yeah. See if you can bring something up. But,
High.
but it's high. So people get divorced.
Right.
I understand that. I understand that things just aren't working out. Things ain't happening. So people do get divorced. What does it say? 2.3 per 1,000. What is that in percentage?
Sorry.
Yeah, they're making you do the math.
Yeah, they are. Hey, no math. You didn't say they're going to be math here.
But the issue that I find with men, it's like, okay, you're going through a divorce. You still got kids.
Yeah.
You don't disappear. You don't neglect.
Right.
You don't stop paying your child support.
Right.
And that, I think, irritates me more than anything that men do wrong.
Right.
Not being a dad. You chose to be a dad. And you cannot just walk away from it.
I agree. I mean, I know, I mean, obviously I wish people would work harder in marriage and that goes back to the selfishness and sacrifice and all that good stuff. But, yeah, just, God, if you're going to get divorced, at least be amicable.
Yeah.
You know, I just.
Well, that goes also, it goes back, in my way of thinking, it goes back to the home. Young boys being raised without a male figure in the house.
Right.
And mom working, coming home, having to be a mom. Dad's nowhere to be seen. So she's got to be mom. She's got to be dad. She's working. God bless her.
Yeah.
I mean, there are so many women out there that are just overwhelmed with the responsibility of young kids going to work, trying to pull everything all together.
Right.
You know, I can't imagine what they go through. But
can't
there's a dad in that scenario, someplace neglecting his responsibilities, and that pisses me off more than anything.
I mean, and I think, like, you know, going back to the whole, you know, generational, what happened to people, you know, I mean, I think a lot of that can go back to the divorce rates.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, life, you know, back in the 50s was a lot different than even the 70s.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, just even between those 2 decades, that's a pretty big jump in the social aspect of, you know.
Yeah. Well, that's really about the time that things really started shifting. In mid 60s, values started to shift.
Correct.
You know, the Vietnam War was going, but there had been a long period of time since the Korean War.
Right.
And everybody was becoming a little bit more affluent.
Right.
People had jobs. People were buying houses.
And women started working.
And women started working in the 60s. And then, you know, and then we started having a lot more of the protests due to the Vietnam War back then. And then it was about, you know, love, freedom, you know, a lot of really good ideas and thought came out of that period of time. But one of them was the idea that people can just do whatever they want to do. There became that freedom of just neglecting responsibility and doing something more fun, doing something that's going to make you happy.
Right.
And that's when it pretty much all started. Then it just every generation or every decade, it just got a little bit more.
And I know, you know, statistically, so both my parents came from divorced homes, and my grandparents divorced very young into their marriage. So both my parents didn't have any kind of family structure. So just the fact that my parents stayed married for 50 years and raised a family. That right there was breaking a cycle. But they didn't have anyone to learn from. Like, it's just by the grace of God and hard work that they were able to stay together as long as they did. But they didn't have a family and a marriage that they could go, oh, wow, that's how this works.
Right.
You know, so, I mean, as much as I could say the things about their marriage, for what they came from, it's hard work and dedication that kept them together. And I think that is a lot of it too, is just hard work.
Yeah. Well, I think that every generation has their own learning curve
Right.
on things. When I look at my parents and then how my grandparents were, I mean, back then, Dad would get up, not my dad, my grandfather would get up, go to work. Mm-hmm. Grandma just stayed at home. That was it. There was no thought or idea of anything about. The man came home from work, sat down, read the newspaper, dinner was being served.
Right.
Get up while everybody else is clearing things. He's back reading the newspaper. Didn't really go throw the ball around. There wasn't a lot of interaction with the kids. That was the wife's job.
Right.
Then when my parents became a little bit more involved, where the dad started coaching the teams a little bit more, or, you know, you had a little
that was
bit
my
more
husband's
weekends.
generation. Like, his dad was the track coach, the football, whatever coach.
Yeah, whatever it was. So it started getting a little bit better, a little bit better. Somewhere, though, where the husband or the dad was coming home, being involved, doing a lot, got degraded. And I think a lot of it has to do with the divorce rate.
Right.
And, you know, blended families, you know, bitterness between the two people, not allowing each other to co-parent.
Right.
You know, the kids were the ones that suffered through that whole thing.
Horribly.
You know, but then when, you know, but even that, as long as the dad's there still trying and going against the grain, okay, you may be there every other weekend. Maybe you don't get, you know, as often as you want, but you're still trying.
They're there.
You're there.
Right.
It's the ones that walk away like it never happened.
I mean, that just, my niece's boyfriend, dad, walked away when he was 2, and it's so sad. He works at Disney, and my niece's favorite character is Pooh. And I was like, well, what's your boyfriend's favorite character? Goofy? I'm like, Goofy? Why Goofy? He's like, because he didn't have a dad. Oh my God,
What?
that's so sad.
That's why.
That's why he's like, oh, because I'm like him. I don't know my dad.
So he relates to Goofy.
Yeah. I'm like, that is the saddest thing I've ever heard.
That's very sad.
It's so sad.
That's
I mean, like,
very
says
sad.
like he like jokes about it, but that's his favorite character.
Yeah,
like,
it's just so sad because I hear that statistically, like in poorer neighborhoods, that you know, fatherless homes without a male figure is over 50%.
Yeah.
You know,
That's where, like, when you go back to, you know, marches and all that, how about we march to get families to stay together?
Well,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, if we want to make a difference, that's a good place to start.
Yeah. Or if it doesn't stay together, let's, as a society, look down upon the dad that walked away, where he can never raise his head. I don't care if he moves to I don't care if he moves to Florida and people find out he has children.
Right.
Where are your children? They're in California. You ever see them? No, I haven't seen them in years.
Exactly.
You're not a friend of mine.
Right.
When are we going to do that as a society rather than wrapping our arms around, oh, that's really too,
100%. I mean, I think if we went back anywhere and go, what can we do to fix this? That would be where to go. It's just the family.
Yeah. We have such a splintered society today.
Truly.
In so many areas. You know, we wonder where that dysfunction started from. I really believe that it started from homes that didn't have male figures. And then it morphed into, now we've got social media. Social media is becoming the parent.
100%.
You know, and what's the scarier part than that, not to, you know, go off topic, but what's even scarier is the way that our school systems are, so heavy-handed in wanting to be the parent and wanting to raise the kids and wanting to push the values and the ideas on little children.
Right.
That's they're really overstep. I can't even say they're starting to. They have way overstepped the boundaries of what a teacher should be.
I mentioned I spent a lot of times in the classrooms as my kids grew up, and I never saw any of that. And now that you're starting to hear parents go, well, COVID started it because now the parents are in the classrooms. They're hearing what's going on. So more and more parents are going like, wait a minute, what is it? Like they started paying attention. What's this on my homework? What are these questions? Why do you need to know this? And holy cow, I did not know it was as bad as it is. Yeah. And it's crazy because, we live in Long Beach, so you think, I didn't see too much of it. I mean, this is probably 5 years ago, so much has changed. But wow. I mean, they truly think that they get to instill morals and ethics, if you could call it that, into their kids now. And that... Yeah.
Well, it's even they're guiding their thought process between just moral dilemmas that shouldn't even really be discussed.
None.
At certain ages, but it should definitely never be discussed in school. And I'm not even going to talk about once they get up to universities and into college and how professors are they're so.
Well, it's like, did you ever know where any of your teachers stood politically? Never. You don't even know if your teachers were married unless No, they went by Miss, Mrs., but you didn't know their.
You didn't ask.
No.
Yeah. You didn't. That was overstepping a boundary that was really none of your business.
100%. And you didn't even know their first name, let alone who they're married to.
Yeah.
And if you found out your teacher's first name, you're like, oh, I know Mrs. Smith's first name.
Yeah, that was. But that was the deal.
That was shocking to me to see how far. I mean, and the books that parents are finding in school libraries.
Yep.
Yeah. That's not okay.
Yeah. I've only heard about that because I don't know. My first set of children are so much older that when they were going to school, that was nothing that needed to be worried about. And then now, especially with the twins, and now they're in college now, so it's kind of like. Hopefully we did a good job. You're out there on your own, make good decisions. If not, come talk about it. But there wasn't the library to worry about at that point. I didn't know what books are there or not there. I was worried about social media.
Right.
Because anything they're going to put in that library is tenfold in social media.
Yeah. Well, they're pulling up. There's parents I've found in elementary school, very graphic.
Yeah.
Books with,
all the parts.
And if you're a boy and you like boys, here's what you do. It's graphic.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
At what grade?
In elementary school.
Elementary school?
There was a, literally so parents are finding these books and they're going to school board meetings and they're literally reading the book. It's so horrific. They can't even read them. Like the school board would be like, what are you doing? It's like, well, this is a book that you just had in my kid's library.
Yeah.
Jack and John, they love each other. What do you do? They have the same parts. What do we, full on like cartoon graphic. I'll show you.
That
it's bad.
It's horrible.
It's beyond horrible. You're just like, what? And what's crazy is like some of them are coming from school districts and states you would never in a million years think. I think we've all had our eyes closed for so long.
Right.
Like I remember when Common Core first came out and my son was the twins and my son were in 5th grade. And because I was in the classroom all the time, I was like, what?
Yeah.
What is this? And their 5th grade teacher literally threw the book in the trash. He's like, I'm not teaching this. And then he retired the next year.
Yeah.
And then, unfortunately, it stuck around. So
it didn't go anywhere. Yeah.
No, just Common Core alone.
Well, and that's one of the issues that I have with school districts. you can go to the district meeting.
Mm-hmm.
You can write a letter. You can voice your opinion.
Doesn't matter.
They don't care.
Right.
They are going to shove down your throat whatever it is they want to do.
They're completely indoctrinating our
Yes.
kids.
Yeah.
It's totally starting out in the schools.
Yeah.
And then that goes into where did Common Core come from? That's a whole nother rabbit hole.
Well, it's it's I forgot, and I'm probably going to butcher this all up, but I had heard that there was a saying, and I don't know if it was Stalin or who it was that actually said it, but said you want to control the people, you control the education.
And look, it's totally working.
Yeah.
Like you get, I mean, how many parents do you know who sent their kids away to college and they came back and they're like, who are you?
Yeah.
I mean, they're like a totally different person.
Yeah. You know, we had a daughter went to Berkeley.
Oh, yeah.
And oh my God.
Yes.
She was so hard, you know, and she knows I love her, so I'm being very honest. She was so hard to talk to while she was in Berkeley and when she first graduated from Berkeley because she was so indoctrinated with these views. Now, some years later, she has softened up.
Oh, good.
And she has seen the light. You know, I'm not saying that she is, you know,
Right.
you know, all on the right side now.
Right.
You know, not the correct side, but the right.
Right.
And you know, but she has found some balance.
Well,
but I'm telling you, you know, that just was unbelievable.
Right.
You know, and it's not even just the school and the professors, but it's, you know, it's the peers. Everybody's buying into it. And so if you step outside the box,
right,
you're no longer a part of the group.
Well, and what's crazy is, you know, I grew up with my parents. My parents are total hippies, so you know, very liberal, blah blah blah. But I remember always being able to hear conversations, and you could talk about things with people, totally disagree, but have conversations. Yeah. And I personally love learning from other. I could talk to people I disagree with all day long and hear their perspective and their points of views and, oh, how did you come to that conclusion? Or why do you feel like this? You know, we all come from different backgrounds. We hear different things. And what you've been exposed to, I haven't. I always use this as a good example. When my daughter got super sick from commercial formulas, I started learning about GMOs, and that sent me down that whole rabbit hole. Well, at the time, Obama was close to getting re-election. So one of the things he ran on was he was going to make it a federal mandate to label all foods that contain GMOs. So I was not a supporter of Obama, but I'm like, oh, there's something we could agree on. I like that. I'm sure you didn't hear him say that because that's not your world, right?
Right.
The time it was my world. So, but I like when you can talk to people about, oh, you know, well, why do you support that person, or what makes you support, you know, X, Y, Z. Now, if you don't agree, you're just a racist and a homophobe and a blah 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 blah.
Oh yeah, you got to be labeled.
Right.
You're going to be labeled something if you don't agree with one side or the other.
And there's no objective.
Yeah.
Objective thinking, or you know, one of the things that when the whole COVID thing happened, I saw it like kind of come in, and me and my family were in Japan when everything got locked down here. And the things that people were saying and doing, I remember being in Tokyo airport. The airport was completely empty. I was on an escalator going up, and I looked at both of my kids, and I was like, you know, my son is now an Eagle Scout. My daughter's a Girl Scout. And I said, what's the first thing you learn in scouting? And I go, oh. You don't lose your cool and you don't lose your head. The minute you lose that, you're done. I mean, you're a police officer. That's the first thing you learn.
Right.
Keep your cool, be rational. And I was like, does any of this make sense to you? And I just started listing some of the things that were starting to go down. Like, that doesn't make sense. That's just causing total chaos. You're losing all sense of reality. You need to be cool. You need to think about this logically and then go from there. But nobody's doing that for anything.
No, and that was the beginning of it, and really, unfortunately, now too, they're now saying coming that a lot of the things that they did, a lot of the things that they were claiming were completely false.
Yep. And I knew it at the time. I couldn't say it. I mean, I would tell my kids, like, hey, you know.
Yeah. And I think that my own thought on this conspiracy thought is they knew going in.
Oh, 100%.
What they were doing.
And I knew that.
They knew.
I knew that.
They knew that shutting down California was going to be chaotic, but also what was going to do is going to be control.
How do you control people? Fear.
Yeah.
You make people fearful, they will do anything.
Yeah.
And that's what happened.
Yeah. And then you even saw the scary side of control. There's not enough. You're always wanting more control. And we saw it here in California. We saw it in shutting down. And then there was that constant, well, if things don't go back, we're going to shut down again. Or, the constant threat of we're going to do it again. Because why? Because we can.
It's funny. I remember being a kid and I was always so attracted to just learning about the Holocaust. And I remember maybe like 6th grade, I had to read a book for school. And I remember thinking, I don't understand how all these millions of people lined up like perfect little soldiers and got on that train.
Yeah.
For the life of me, I couldn't understand it. And then here I am all these years later living it.
Yeah.
Like it was mind blowing to me.
Yeah.
Like people weren't even questioning things.
Yeah. They still don't.
None.
We're afraid to question. We're afraid to ask a controversial question to a controversial subject because just asking the question, which should just be, hey, I want to learn more about this, so enlighten me. It isn't. You become a label, whether it's the right side or the left side, whatever the situation is, you're going to be labeled for asking the question.
Right.
Don't you dare ask me.
Right. I'm the authority. I'm the one in the white coat.
Yeah. I'm above you.
Right.
Don't ask, just do. And that's how we're seeing our life. That's how we're starting to see our society.
And you know what's funny? Coming full circle, the whole reason my daughter was in the hospital and I have my business and all that was her getting sick. So I lived this before, nothing to this level. But when my daughter got sick and was in the hospital at the best hospital, in Southern California, and the doctors are just like, I don't know, you need to just listen to me because I said so. And I'm, with a sick baby, 5 weeks old, and just me questioning, well, what about this? Well, what about that? I mean, I remember getting treated horribly by the doctors because I questioned.
So let's start there.
All right, you want to go there?
Yeah, let's go there. We've kind of beaten everybody else up. We'll go into this. Let's, let's tell us about your daughter and being sick and the whole process, and then how it created this whole other avenue that you never even anticipated.
So, my daughter at 5 weeks old came down with a little fever. And at the time, so your twins, my son, they were in kindergarten. And there was a new baby, and they just started kindergarten. It was October. So, they all have their runny noses and their colds. And so my daughter ends up getting a fever of 99.7. She's a little fussy. So I called the doctor just to see, because she was under that 6 weeks. So I called the doctor to see how much Tylenol I could give her. And then they said, oh, no, you need to bring her in. She's not 5 weeks. If she has a fever, that's serious. So I'm thinking, all right. So I took her in the doctor, and I had to see someone I didn't know. And he took her fever, and he's like, I don't mean to alarm you, but you need to go straight from here to Long Beach Memorial Hospital. They're going to be waiting for you, and they're going to have a bed ready. And I'm like, what? Like, it just wasn't even what do you, she's got a little fever. Like she's a little fussy, but anyway, okay, this is how it's funny how it's full circle. This is the swine flu year. So I get to the hospital, they check us, and I'm just thinking they're gonna at some point tell us to go home. This is ridiculous. And nope, we were admitted. So that night, they started taking blood and urine samples, and they wanted to do a spinal tap on her.
At less than 6 weeks?
At 5 weeks old. And I said, nope, sorry, no, not going to happen. And the doctor looked at me like, what? I'm like, you're not touching her spine, sorry. And here he's treating me like it's just routine. We do it all the time. I'm like, sorry. I don't know why. Like just something in me and my mom instincts are like, nope. Anyway, so I start running tests on her and like, there's nothing obvious. She's not getting any worse, but she's not getting any better. So that night, okay, so it's swine flu year. So it's, some kids have, now we're in the pediatrics. So some kids have the flu. Some kids maybe have swine flu. We don't know. So I was so scared that she was going to get something that she didn't have because we didn't know what she had. So I literally would not put her down. We were in our room and I kept her on me with a little mask on her face all night long. And then what's crazy is 3 o'clock in the morning, we were in our room by ourselves. 3 o'clock in the morning, the door comes slamming open. It's a baby on a gurney, and the ambulance driver's telling the nurse that they're bringing this baby in six weeks old from Downey Hospital for a failed spinal tap.
What?
And I was like, oh, gosh.
What?
Yeah.
Really?
Like whatever, but something with a spinal tap just went wrong. So anyway, that was that. But because of that, the doctors were just completely giving me attitude. Like, I don't know why we don't have a diagnosis because we don't know. And I'm just like, if it gets to that, or maybe if she stops eating or something else, I'll go there. But I'm not willing to do that right now. So we literally sat in that hospital 5 days in, like literally nothing's happening. She's hooked up to IV antibiotics. We don't know for what. We don't know why. So day 5, so you get your new nurses that come in. So we had a new nurse that came in and she's like, oh, she just tested positive for the flu, influenza A. So then they took me out of that room. They put her in another room. So now we're in a room with flu patients, like that legitimately have the flu. So I'm like, okay, I was kind of glad that we had an answer. 24 hours go by. Our regular nurse comes back in. She comes running in the room. What are you guys doing in here? I'm like, we tested positive for the flu. She's like, no, people test false positive all the time. You shouldn't be in here. I'm like,
no, Jesus.
Okay. So she retested. She's negative. So she didn't have the flu. So basically we were there we're going to call it a shit show because that's what it was, was for 7 days. We basically finally got released not knowing what was going on. So that's with this whole COVID thing and
Did she still have a fever at the time?
No. So we got to go home 24 hours after her fever broke. So that's kind of the threshold. If you go 24 hours without a fever, then that's it, as long as nothing else is wrong. So what's funny is just going through all that, when all this COVID chaos, I'm like, oh yeah, I've seen that show before.
Yeah, no kidding.
You know what I mean? Because think about it, it's the flu. You can't even get the flu right. Positive, false positive. No, you're not. Here we are.
Sounds like the exact same thing.
It was. So I'm like,
with COVID.
We can't even get the flu right.
Yeah.
How are we going to get this right? So anyway, blah, blah, blah. And just the contamination and the masks, the no masks. And so I saw all that. So it's just so funny how that stands out. So anyway, so we went home and we thought she was okay. But what happened is she just kept getting worse and worse. So now what's happening is I say that it's coming to start to be internal to external. So literally she's super fair, blonde, blue eyes, very white skin. So she starts her whole body, so it starts out with a huge rash that's oozing under her neck.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And it's just so then the doctor's like, oh, it's teething rash. It's she wasn't even teething yet. So literally there's this whole process. We'd put powder on it. We'd try to keep it because it's just wet. Try to keep it, but she wasn't drooling or anything, so none of it made sense. So then it started going to all over her body, like every thing that had any creases, her elbows, her behind her knees, behind her ears were now oozing with rashes. Her stomach was so distended. Her eyes were almost swollen shut. So now I'm back at the doctor literally every day. And the doctor's like, I don't know, maybe it's this, try different formulas. I don't think it's internal. Try this steroid cream, try that, and everything would make it worse. So I have a nutrition background just because I went through my own health journeys in my 20s. So I was aware about organic and, I was like on the natural side of things. So, but what was funny is I'm like, and I tried like maybe it's her detergent. Went through every detergent, natural, made my own, nothing. But the thing of it is that by this time, she was starting her stage 1 foods. So she went through those fine. Then we started introducing her stage 2 foods. And then she broke out even worse. Like, it was like night and day. So I pulled I forgot to say that I literally had to take her to the doctor every day. They wanted to put her back in the hospital. And I'm like, please, please, no. I will do anything. So I had to agree to take her to the hospital every day because now she's open wounds everywhere, so she's super prone to infection. So take her every day. And I remember, so there's this whole mama bear thing that happens in you. Because you're just, like, you are literally watching your child get sicker and sicker in front of you. And it's like a freight train. You can't stop. And you're just trying everything. The pit in your stomach and the anxiety, you're just, you kind of know you're poisoning your kid, but you have no idea why or how or what. So at the time, she was on an earth-based organic formula, and it was the best of the best for formulas. And so anyway, I leave on a Friday, and it's the same thing. So in my doctor's office, every doctor imaginable in that office, like my doctor would be like, have you ever seen anything like this? They'd come in, nope, never seen. Do you have any suggestions? I don't know. Try this steroid, try that. And I left on a Friday again with no answers. And I just got to the point where you go through all these emotions. You're sad, you're angry. And then I was just livid. Like, I was just like, all these white coats at the hospital, at my office, at my doctor's office, like none of you could freaking figure this out. Like, I was just pissed, quite frankly.
I got to stop you right here for 1 second.
You're dying with your eyes.
I don't know what the hell. Yeah. My eyes are like on freaking fire.
I could see that.
Oh, goodness gracious. Okay. We're good.
Right,
We're good to go.
Are you done crying? I know my stories.
I know. Yeah, that was
heartwarming.
That was crazy, man. My eyes were on fire. So anyway, we left off, and she is like in.
Okay, so doctor's offices every day. So anyway, I leave on a Friday, and I left just pissed. And I remember kind of just going, God, what? Just tell me. And it hit me like a ton of bricks, like, check her formula. Oh, I know what I was going to tell you. So one of the things when we were on our stage 2 foods, she broke out once. And I remember pulling it out of the trash and to look at the ingredients as like a vegetable melody. And she had already had carrots. She had already had peas, fine. But the one thing that was in there that wasn't anything else was corn. So I was like, oh, okay, corn. And I remember at the time, I went through like her little teething biscuits, her little oatmeal. Well, all of that had some form of corn in it. Corn, like some kind of like corn syrup solid or some kind of. So I did go through the cupboard and threw everything that had corn in it out. But I never checked her formula because who would have thought the formula would have corn in it? So I get home. I had probably 5 different kinds of formula. I flipped them all over and had them lined up on the counter. Every single one of them, first ingredient, corn syrup solid, corn syrup solid, corn syrup solid, corn.
Really?
And I'm like, ding. Well, so now you probably don't know this, but corn syrup solid is one of the worst GMOs out there. It's sugar, is genetically modified, is trash. So that's what's in soda. So basically, when all said and done, and there was a bunch of soy. I never wanted my daughter to be on soy anything because going back to the natural side, soy mimics estrogen. And so like in China, that's such a problem. Babies literally are developing breasts because they have so much estrogen. There's enough estrogen as a birth control pill in their formula.
Are you kidding me?
Not kidding.
Wow.
So China actually comes to us for formula now because their formula is just so bad. So I knew that, but I didn't think that in my organic formulas, it just didn't even dawn on me. So there was soy in my non-soy formulas. I was so mad. Like I felt so deceived. So then...
So how did they hide that? I mean, because they're
not even hiding it. It's on the ingredient label. I just didn't ever think to read it.
Oh, okay. So you think you're getting soy free, but
yes.
Okay.
So when you go and buy a formula, like it's Earth's Best organic, non-fat dairy formula. So when you go with a dairy, you're cow. You're not. So there are a whole separate line of soy formulas. But I never wanted so even through all with the doctor trying to change her formulas, like she had mentioned soy formula, you could try soy. I'm like, nope, no way. Mm-hmm. And soy too is another huge GMO. Like not only is it like estrogen producing and all that, it's a GMO. So anyway, once I found out, I'm like, oh, this is it. Like it was like a light bulb moment. So I was happy to have found it. Then I went through, okay, well, now what? I have every formula on the market. So then I started Googling how to make your own formula. So I was literally till 3 o'clock in the morning. And I went to all my like doctors that I follow on the natural side. And I started like kind of figuring out a recipe. But here's where the critical thinking starts coming in and where you're like, okay, start questioning things. So if you Google how to make your own formula, you'll get the whole... You're going to kill your baby because you're not going to have enough, minerals or this or that in their brain and blah. So then you get terrified. But then I'm like, well, wait a minute. Commercial formula is a pharmaceutical. It's made by pharmaceutical companies. What did we do before then? So it's only been out since the 70s. Mm-hmm. All right, well, I'm pretty sure I'm not the first person that couldn't breastfeed. So I was like, all right, well, what did they do prior to pharmaceutical companies coming out with formula? Oh, well, moms made their own formula. Okay, well, how? Simple little recipe. It was totally normal. Like if you didn't breastfeed, even my mother-in-law, they write you out a little prescription and you just carnation evaporated milk, Cairo syrup, a couple other ingredients. That's it. Mm-hmm. Okay, I could do that. So, but it's funny because my generation... I feel like we're kind of brainwashed to go, don't try anything out of the normal. If the doctor didn't prescribe it, then it's not good,
Well, that's pharmaceutical companies too.
They're bought and paid for.
Yeah, absolutely.
So going back,
that's actually the voice behind the doctor, of course, pharmaceutical company, giving them the information.
Absolutely. So going back to same thing with a COVID shot. Oh, you have to have the shot. You have to have this. Yeah. There's no other way around it. Okay, so I don't have my own immune system. Okay.
Yeah.
So this is so funny. So I was terrified. Like even though like I felt good, but I was still terrified about making this own recipe of mine. Mm-hmm. So it's Sunday. I go to there's this little health food store around the block from me. So I put Ella in the car, get over there, put in her stroller. Now she's physically, like, you take one look at her and, like, parents would do the, oh my God, like, look at her. So I put her in the car and the lady at the front's like, oh, can I help you? And she looked at Ella, looked at me. She's like, she's formula fed, isn't she? I was like, yeah. She's like, do you know why she's like that? Oh, and I did, like, in all my Googling and all that, I finally figured out why her skin was doing what it's doing. So babies don't have sweat glands. They can't sweat. So what's happening is the formula is so toxic, their body is literally trying to kick out the toxins. And the only way it could do it is through the skin. So it's called seborrheic dermatitis. So it's just trying to get rid of these toxins. So what's funny is, like, I figured that out, but then I was like, oh, what do you think? She's like, oh, I think it's seborrheic dermatitis. It's from formula. I'm like, oh, okay, that's what I thought too. So then I was like, well, I'm actually wanting to make my own formula. And I had the recipe and all the ingredients. And I was like, what do you think? She's like, oh, she's going to do so good on that. That is fantastic. I'm like, oh, okay. But then in the back of my head, I'm like, dude, she just works at the health food store. But then she's like, do you know what my credentials are? I'm like, no. So she's like, oh, this is just a part-time weekend job. I'm a pediatric nurse doula. She's like naming off all these credentials that this is what she does. She's all pediatrics.
Wow.
Baby nurse.
What are the chances? What are the
I know,
chances
I'm like,
just
okay,
walking in? And, yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah.
So it made me feel so much better. So she helped me round up all the ingredients, and it must have been a Saturday. You know those videos, or like you'll see of, there's still shot pictures like of a flower blooming, and it's like just a bunch of still shots, but it opens up and blooms.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah. So that's a time lapse or
Yeah, we did that, but we did it opposite with her. So as soon as I started feeding her this formula, I literally could almost watch her skin just start to close up and start to calm down. And all of a sudden, like, all the oozing stopped. And then it was closed up. Come Monday morning, when I had to take her back to the doctor, literally, her eyes were bright and shiny and not glossy anymore. Her stomach wasn't distended. Her skin was all closed up. The only thing that was left is the really bad parts were just pink. So they weren't open, raw, and oozing. They're just little pink. So I get to the doctor, and I'm, like, terrified. Because I'm like, what am I going to say? Like, I'm excited. I'm like, what am I going to tell her? So my doctor looks at her, and she's been my doctor for, like, 20 years. She looked at Ella. She looked at me. She's like, what'd you do? Oh, my God. I can't believe this is the same baby. What did you do? I'm like, I'm making my own formula. I'm like, dude, she's going to totally report me to CPS. I just know it. And she just grabbed me by my shoulders, looked at me in the eye, and she's like, Dara, oh, my God, you have to do something with this. You have no idea how many parents go, like, they have nothing. You need to help. You need to do something with this. I'm like, sure.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. What does that actually mean?
Okay, you guys, I'm a real estate agent, and like my background's like real estate and loans. I'm like, oh yeah, okay, I'll get right on that. And so,
So how long did it take you before you started thinking, hey, there might be something to that?
So what happens is people go on the journey with you. So I had an acupuncturist, I had a chiropractor, I had friends, and then a friend of a friend, and they all hear your story, right? Like this was a 6 months journey. All these people are in it with you. And then when they start saying, oh, you figured it out. And then they're like, well, what did you do? And then, oh, can you help my friend? Like she's having the same problem. So at first I started just, oh, here, I'll help you make the recipe. And then later on, like a few of my, like I have a friend, well, she was my acupuncturist / chiropractor. And she's the one that probably pushed me the most. Like, no, like I really need you to do something with this. I'm like, okay. So at first it just started out as, okay, let me just dabble in this. I kept my job. I opened up an LLC, and I literally was just helping people. I was making it by hand in my kitchen, and then just slowly. So actually, the one thing that happened is, like the one that just like totally spiderweb to legit. I have a friend who's at Huntington Beach PD. His partners had a baby and was struggling. So he referred his wife to me. His wife had a friend who was adopting and was super into like organic, knew she didn't want to give formula. Her doctor was Dr. Bob Sears, which is a very well-known pediatrician in San Clemente. He like does the alternative vaccine schedule. So in the organic, holistic world, he's your go-to pediatrician. So she goes to him and she's like, I'm adopting. So when you adopt, you have to adhere to CPS. You're basically in the system. Mm-hmm. So you have to like only go on certain formulas that CPS allows. They check in with you. So he's like, I'm going to write you a prescription for this formula. He literally wrote a prescription for Design by Nature. And that's like, then all of a sudden he's referring me all these people. And I was like, oh, okay, I guess we're in it. And then that's just it. just went from there. It was all referrals. Like he was referring people to me left and right. And then that's when like I never did marketing. I never did anything. It was all word of mouth. So then doulas started finding me and a couple other pediatricians. So that's kind of how it all started.
So really it grew through
all word of mouth.
Word of mouth.
I mean, the big kickoff was that one pediatrician.
Right. And what's the name of the company?
Designed by Nature.
Designed by Nature.
Yeah. So just natural food is just...
Is formula the only product that you
so far
developed?
Yeah. There's a lot more I can do. Funny enough, a lot of backpackers use it. Not a lot, but I have backpackers that use it because it's like a complete meal. It's got all your healthy fats, your carbohydrates, your protein. So
it kind of transcends actual baby formula.
Yeah. Like I have people that have ALS on it that are fed by a feeding tube, but it's mostly like branded to children. Mm-hmm. So.
And how long has this, since the very beginning, the inception of it, how far back is that? How many years?
So it's been 12 years that Design by Nature has been a company. 12 years. But I kind of say 10 because that first 2 was kind of took a while. You know, like I went and got the LLC and then...
It's still the beginning.
Years. It is.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah, you can't shortchange it. So over that 12-year period to where you're at today, tell us about that growth. Tell us about, okay, you started getting referrals and, even prescriptions, which is wild.
Right, and isn't that funny? So I was getting referrals, and then so what was happening is like at first I was just making it at my house. Then I actually, once I figured out, Dr. Sears is referring people, maybe I should. So then I actually started renting a commercial kitchen where I had a little staff, and we'd make it just handmade to order. So, this is funny. So we were using real milk, like liquid milk, and we were freezing it in pouches. So it was super fresh. Like we'd get it literally, the milk would come straight from the farm every week, make it to order, freeze it, and then I'd have it delivered. So it really was stuck with just local. There's a few places we could ship to, but then dry ice was involved. So then we started growing even more. Then like people in New York wanted it and Canada. So then I'm like, okay. So I really liked the whole liquid, super, super fresh. I'm like, okay, I really gotta just negotiate on this. And then I was able to find, and so my most popular is goat milk. So goat milk, kids like these generations have so many dairy allergies, and that's a whole other subject on why. But so goat milk's the most popular. So I found a goat milk supplier that it's powdered and the integrity of it's completely kept intact. So one of my beefs about powdered anything was what happens is anything that is liquid and becomes a powder goes through this horrible process called dry spraying. So we're going back to super organic, very sick baby. So every little detail is huge in her world, right? So if I take a liquid product and it goes through a dry spraying process, which is basically a chemical process. It's like with hexanes and all these chemicals. So it's like, here I am buying all these super expensive ingredients trying to stay organic, but then the powder itself goes through this horrible hexane process. Well, that kind of defeats the purpose.
Right.
So I found a company from the Netherlands that used a process called fractionated window drying. So it's basically just nice, slow, chemical-free process of drying milk. So then I could use powder. So once I was able to use powder, then that opened up a whole nother level of my business. So then I was able to actually get it manufactured. So just finding a manufacturer that would take me. So the manufacturing business is insane. Like small companies can't just go to manufacturing and be like, hey, will you produce my stuff?
I need 3 cases.
Yeah, because then you're talking about, like just I'm so tiny in the manufacturing world. So, they want huge orders. And the one thing I never did, I never went in debt. So I'd only use what money I could, like, I never went into debt. Never took out loans, nothing. So I found, so several people had come to me like that were client or customers and, oh my God, I love your business. Like, I want to be involved. Like, I kissed a few frogs as far as partnering up with people. So I had one lady who found me and she was using it for her baby. And then she's like, oh my God, I want to partner with you. And like, she gave me all her credentials. I'm like, look, I'm going to be honest with you. I got this. I just need money. Like, I just need investors.
Yeah, don't need
like,
help.
I can't get to this next level without cash. Oh, I got you. Like, I know she's from, her schooling's from USC and I have all these connections about, so I'm like, okay, I'll look and, I'll consider this. She actually, had a partner that had a manufacturing background. So he was doing most of the work, but he actually is the one that found the manufacturer local in San Diego area. On the manufacturing scale, he's small, but he actually produces protein powders. And he had the problem with his protein powders where he went in trying to find a manufacturer that's suitable for him and met all his stringent guidelines. And he ended up opening up his own company because he just couldn't stand the bureaucracy and it's tough. It's a tough business to get into. So I was with them. So that helped me like get in a whole nother world of shipping. And so then I went from, okay, I'm local to Southern California. Now I'm all over the place. So I could ship within the United States. So that was probably like 5 years in. It took a couple years to get
to that point where you had the right manufacturing, and you had the right ingredients.
Right. And then like just converting everything from liquid to powder. So getting that right and like different blend, like you have to do sample runs and all that.
So the product using powdered goat milk, the other ingredients then you say had to also then be turned into powder.
Yeah, like so all my oils. So there's 5 different oils. There's coconut oil, olive oil, sunflower oil, cod liver oil, and olive oil. So when we were making it by hand in liquid, we were using oils. We had to find powdered oils.
Was that
That's
accessible?
Hard.
Is it?
We found them, but boy, was that hard. Well, okay, so hard in that they have to meet the stringent guidelines. I mean, you could get stuff from China all day long, but no thanks.
Right.
You know what I mean? So
that and also too, so they had to meet your guidelines, but also then you find the manufacturer, whoever has it, and I imagine that they had minimum.
Yes, and that's
limits.
what killed me at first is those minimums and those oils. You don't use very much oils, but boy, those minimums were killer. So that was but I did it, and
so you're combining all of the ingredients in the right amount. Is it individual packets? How does it then go from the powder to formula?
So then, so they're literally, when the manufacturer gets all the ingredients, it's literally just powders. So at this point, all they're doing is blending it. So they're taking, they're equal, the right amounts of XYZ, and they're literally blending it, and then it gets blended into bulk, and then it goes into pouches. So what's nice is there's no cooking, there's none of that, no heating, nothing. It's just blended. So then it goes from a bulk blend into the individual pouches. Okay. So then,
and then when a person receives the pouches, what do they add?
Just water.
Just water.
So
is it easily mixed?
So what's funny is yes and no. So commercial formula goes through that dry spraying process. So if you compare like our formula to like Similac is this perfect fine powder because it's been dry spray. I mean, it's pharmaceutical. So ours, we're taking whole food ingredients and we're literally leaving them as is. So your milk, we have nutritional yeast in there, which I don't know if you're familiar with that, but
no.
Nutritional yeast is it's grown off molasses, but it's all your vitamins, and it has like some protein, some folic acid in there. So it's literally like you could get it in different forms, but it's a yellowish, more of a flake. So that's in whole form. So like through the blending process, it kind of grinds down a little bit finer, but so we don't do anything so the formula is a little thicker than, like, so going back a million years ago, probably for me too. So if babies are formula fed through a bottle, the nipples on it, there's different stages. There's 0 to 3, 6 to 9, and then 9 and up. So the hole is just bigger for the baby. So they have to go with a bigger hole in the nipple because the formula is thicker, because it's a real food, it's not processed. So that's really the only difference, so you mix it in water just like normal formula. So you just add water, mix it. I mean, usually they just put it in the bottle, shake it, and they're good to go.
Yeah, that's what I was, kind of picture, kind of almost like
protein powder.
Like a protein powder. They give you the little plastic thing with the lid. You got the shaker, you shake it all up, and there's a little strainer, and you pour it out so it catches all the clumps.
And you shouldn't have to do that, because they usually just put it in the bottle, shake it, and they're good to go.
Yeah.
Does a little bit better warmed because of the oils in there. But other than that, which babies usually like it warm anyway.
Right. So. Yeah. I can always remember, the babies, and you test it on your arm and make sure it's not too hot.
Yep. But now they have bottle warmers. They have these things called, so you have your Keurigs, right? So they have something called, I didn't have this when my babies were babies. I would have been like in heaven, but it's called the baby barista. So it is literally like a Keurig machine for a baby bottle. So the formula sits in this little compartment up on top. So you just put the powder. So if they come in pouches, so you just put the whole pouch of powder in this little container.
So you haven't gone to K-cups yet?
No. Oh. But what's cool is, hey, we're being earth friendly here. So this baby barista, so all they do is they just put their formula in, a pouch at a time, and then they just hit this button, if they want 2 ounces, 4 ounces, 6 ounces. It literally makes the formula for you, and it just comes out in a nice little warm bottle.
Wow.
I know, so fancy.
Jeez.
I get that all the time. Customers, what's the baby barista setting?
I don't know. Never had.
Yeah, the company, the baby barista. So it's the equivalent of Keurig. They have it on their website. I'm like, you have to go there and look.
Gosh.
I know, it's so crazy.
I know. So, okay, so now you've got all the formula, all the ingredients for the formula. It's all dry, so now you can ship it everywhere and anywhere.
Right. In the United States, we could do Canada. We don't go outside the United States because dairy has a whole international situation that I'm not ready to conquer.
Oh, even though the dairy is actually goat milk?
Yeah, and we do have a cow milk formula too. We have both cow and goat. Our most popular by far is goat milk.
Is the goat milk?
Yeah.
How many different formulas or products do you
So technically 3. So we have the goat milk, the cow milk, and then there's different size pouches. They could get a little travel size or just a normal pouch. We do carry something that's, I don't know how long we'll carry it for, but it's called the base mix. So there's a whole world in the old health food industry that loves raw milk. Are you into that at all? Have you heard of it? Okay. So that's kind of going on.
I'm so removed from formula.
Well, it's not even formula. It's just in the old, holistic health.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So raw milk is kind of making a comeback. So it's basically, old school, you'd milk your cow, you'd bring it in the house and you give it to your family. If you go overseas, if you go to Ireland, they milk the cow out there and they put it on the table still warm. So the whole thing about milk and all the milk allergies is that milk is highly processed to kill the bacteria, right? So back in the 1920s and 30s, when we had a mad rush of immigration, Ellis Islands area, what happened is our hygiene wasn't the best. So now all of a sudden you're packing people into areas and they they don't understand how bacteria and, sewage and all that stuff is contaminated. So people were getting sick off what they thought was milk. So they started pasteurizing it. So the way our industry, so milk as a whole, so the raw milk, you'll probably get in, think this is cool, but raw milk, so lactose intolerance isn't a real thing in the sense that none of us have the correct enzymes in our body, in our stomachs to break down lactose. The milk left in a raw state has the natural enzymes and probiotics to break down the lactose. We were never supposed to break down lactose. So what happens is when you pasteurize milk, it kills all the probiotics, all the vitamins, all the minerals, and all those naturally occurring enzymes. So then you're just left with this dead substance that your body really can't digest. So the hypothesis is that everyone's has some kind of inflammation marker when they drink milk. Some might be more than others, but we all, just because we don't have the enzymes. So if you left it raw, it is actually a complete superfood. So the whole raw milk movement. So raw milk is illegal in a lot of states. Actually, here in California, it is not illegal. So there's a raw milk movement of a homemade formula using raw milk that it's this nature's superfood. So it's all about the dangers that happens with milk is how the cows are treated. So you take anything and you let them sit in their own feces, you're going to get some bacteria in there. So if you have it clean and it's gone through the right testing, then it's a superfood.
So is there, are there certain procedures and rules that a dairy farmer has to follow for raw milk?
They're hardcore. So they're no joke. So in order to be a raw milk, a real one, like a real where I'm going to produce this and sell it. So the biggest organic pasture of raw milk here in California is called Organic Pastures. Mark McAfee's the owner. And so what was happening is he was producing raw milk and he kept getting shut down by the CDC. And they're like, you can't do this. It's illegal. And he's like, okay, well, what can I do to make it where it can be legal? And they put all these crazy guidelines. So basically, at the end of the day, they just want to know that you're not selling milk or that's contaminated with bacteria, right? So he ended at the time, this is probably 20 years ago, he literally put in a $5 million operation to where everything's tested. I mean, literally, like you could eat off the floor in this place. It's so clean. So if you have, so all his cows are free ranged. So they're not just sitting in their own, manure. And then so what happens is they're free range. So when they get brought in to be milked, they're in a clean facility. And then it is like processed as far as like it's cleaned and all of the milk is tested before it goes out. So it is literally tested for all the bacterias. So the way that the guidelines were put in is, so it's hard. So for farmers, there are small little farmers that couldn't put in that kind of operation. They're pretty much SOL. Like they can't, there's like literally been farms that have been raided and shut down by the FBI because they were selling raw milk and they weren't they didn't have the right operation. So
is there a certain license or registration?
Yeah. Oh
yeah.
Like it is no joke what they have to go through. So, but because it is a huge, like if you go to Sprouts, Whole Foods, they will have the raw milk. So there is a big, and it's a whole industry that's just going back to the basics. They're going back to, it's called nourishing traditions. So basically trying to go back to just our old way of eating where we have the probiotics and the cultured food is huge because that's when you start bringing in the good, healthy probiotics. So anyway, so with that said, this raw milk formula is huge. So a lot of people want it. I can't touch that. No way. So you can't make anything with raw milk and have it legal. Like you couldn't even make chocolate raw milk and resell it. It's illegal. Like anything raw milk has to come from that farm. You can't touch it. Blah, blah.
So even if you bought it from that farm, you cannot resell it
in any way, shape, or form.
Why is that? Are they afraid that it's going to be
probably
contaminated somewhere
probably.
along the line?
Yeah. So with Dr. Sears, he loves this raw milk formula. So you can make it yourself. It's a very complex recipe that some moms were making in their kitchen. So what I did is, knowing that I made the base, which is all the base ingredients that are in my formula and the close to the raw milk formulas. It's not exact, to where the moms could just take this little pouch, mix it with raw milk, and have their formula. So
okay. So it's the same thing, except instead of adding water,
they're adding
the raw milk.
They're actually adding raw milk and water to make the right dilution to the base. So it's basically I call it the base because it's the base of the formula. Yeah. So it's just X-nay the milk, and you're adding your own milk.
Right.
And then it
really isn't any different than a protein drink that has all of the
100%.
different ingredients
100%. And when kids get older, we get a lot of oh my God, as soon as they hit one and they start people think, oh, good, I get to save on formula. Oh my God, that's right. When they start getting picky and they're only eating chicken nuggets, and you're like, where are you going to get your nutrition from?
Right.
So if you were to throw in raw milk or by that time, almond milk, anything. I mean, ideally the raw milk, because another thing with our generation of kids that they're thinking is we're taking out all the good quality fats from our diets.
Right.
So nobody eats butter anymore. Nobody eats milk anymore. All these high fats food that are, your brain is fat.
Absolutely.
So
we thrive on fats.
So here you have all these.
But it depends also too on the
it has to be healthy fat.
It has to be healthy fat. So you can't get it through oils and
exactly. So part of this nourishing tradition is the big part of it is bringing back the healthy fats, the cultured foods, and so with your toddlers and their brains are growing at such a rapid pace, and if their nutrition isn't keeping up with it, I don't know where ADD is coming from, or
right.
It's like, well, hello.
Well, I often question that, not to go sideways on our conversation here, but with the ADD, I often wonder how many kids actually have it and how many are just being treated for.
Oh yeah, 100%. Well, now it's like going back to the catchy phrase. It's like, well, we all have some form of, don't we all?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We're all.
I know. I probably.
There is a spectrum, and we're all on it.
100%.
We just don't know where on it that we are.
Exactly. It's funny. My son Jones was like, "I'm pretty sure I'm ADD." I'm like, "Oh, I'm pretty sure I am too. What are you going to do about it?"
Yeah.
I think what's going to change.
Well,
and he's not as any or less ADD than all of us are.
Well, it's Jill, my wife. So knows, total ADD.
Yeah, 100%.
With some dyslexia thrown in there just for a little bit extra.
Yeah.
And she graduates from law school.
Right.
And I tell people all the time, she's the smartest woman I fucking know.
Yeah.
I don't know any. I've never met another woman as smart as her. And it isn't because she went to law school and she got good grades, it's because she's got ADD, she has dyslexia, and she has taught herself how to learn in spite of these challenges.
100%.
And she does, and she's not, and you've known her for a long time, Brian will attest to it. She is not minimal ADD. She's pretty good. She's in the upper middle of that spectrum there.
Yeah.
And yet she's been able to, one of the things that she learned was she cannot join a study group. Most people going to school, they get in a study group and they all study together and they bounce ideas. She can't do it because it's too distracting.
Hey, you should try taking care of her after she has foot surgery.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, that was fun. Brian, you remember trying to keep her?
No comment.
You remember Jill? We're just going to stay here for a few weeks, okay?
Yeah. We're gonna. No. No. I got to run.
But what's cool about Jill is, which I think is so genius, is she takes her ADD and she uses it for great purposes.
Right.
Like look, getting through law school.
Yeah.
It's probably her ADD that got her through law school because she's so determined.
She's determined to a fault. She will listen to reasoning, but very seldom acts on it because she has a certain way of thinking and doing. And, most people, she's ex-marathon runner, but still runs as often as she can. So she'll go out and she'll run 7 miles. How was your run? Oh, it was okay. I only did 7. Well, how many did you want to do? I was hoping I was going to get 10, but I just ran out of time and I couldn't do this. And it's like, you know how many people would love to say they just ran 7?
Right.
I couldn't run a half.
No.
A half a mile, not half a 7. I couldn't run a half a mile. And you're out there running 7, and but she doesn't take what she does as an accomplishment. Right. It's always, I should have done this, or I could have done this, or why didn't I do this?
Right.
And it's always just should be something a little bit better.
She's she's her own worst enemy.
Exactly. I tell her that all the time. But going back to today's world and how many people are being diagnosed and prescribed for ADD that may or may not have it, are being prescribed something, Adderall or whatever, for the ADD, and the ADD may be mild enough that you don't have to use it.
And I think most people don't. I mean, it's well, so what's funny is, there's an Adderall shortage just recently, just like there was a baby formula shortage. So parents have been having to figure out, oh my God, what am I going to do with my kid if it doesn't have? So all of a sudden they start researching. So they're finding like all the different nutritional ways, and they're finding out, wow, this works really good. Yeah. And one of the ones that's working the best is saffron, the herb.
Really?
Yeah. So crazy.
That is crazy.
But all your high fats, I
really believe that there is a solution to a lot of things. And I don't want to disparage, pharmaceutical companies, because they have
there's a time and a place for it.
They have done a lot of good, for cancer research and for, I get a headache. And,
But I don't think your body has high blood pressure because it is short on blood pressure medication.
No.
So I think there's a time and place where medicine is fantastic, but there's a time, to me, it's the very osteopathic way of thinking is like, well, why do I have ADD? Why do I have high blood pressure? These are all signals that your body, they're little warning lights. Okay, so like going back to my daughter. Okay, these are warning lights.
Right.
Her body's breaking out in rashes. Well, that's a big warning light. Her body, and I'm 100% convinced if I just covered up her issue with her gut, she would easily be autistic or have ADD or cancer or something, because her body was in a constant inflammation state and toxic. So what do you get from that? Yeah. Nothing good.
No, because when it's in a toxic state and it's being run down, basically, then it becomes more vulnerable.
Exactly.
To whatever. You can't really always point the finger and say that caused cancer. Right. But you can say it opened up the door to allow it
easily
to happen.
Yeah. Her body was in a constant inflammation state. So if I didn't, and I did have to, I make it, the story sounds so short and sweet. It actually was a long journey getting her gut back in. I was giving her tons of probiotics and kefir. And I did a lot it took a long time for me to feel confident. Okay, I think I got this. Yes, her body like almost overnight was physically changed, but you have 6 months of damage I had to undo.
Well, also too, the change was exactly that. It changed or fixed a particular issue that you were dealing with that was being caused by the alternative.
Right.
So by eliminating the alternative, she still had to have nourishment.
Yeah.
So you're giving her the nourishment, just a different vehicle.
Exactly.
So you eliminated the issues that were giving her the problem.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then she had, thrush, which is a form of fungal infection. And, just so all that took some time to get rid of. And so, I mean, that took some time.
Yeah.
But I feel like if I didn't listen to the red flag that her body was telling me, that would have been.
Well, and I think that's kind of the problem that we see today. We don't think outside the box. Right. We don't think about there's an alternative way. There's an alternative way of feeding your children. There's an alternative way of teaching your children. There's an alternative way of parenting. But when we get so, indoctrinated into the day-to-day normal system, we really become our own worst enemy, going off your words with Jill, our own worst enemy, and we don't think outside the parameters. We go through life with blinders on in basically blind belief that we're being led down the proper path.
Right. Well, and that's what was so shocking to me, with this whole COVID thing, once we came around to the vaccine, and everybody needs to get it no matter what. Doesn't matter about your background, doesn't matter.
Absolutely.
And I'm like, whoa. Well, again, red flags. Well, wait a minute. That's never been the case before.
Right. And that's what ended up happening. And I'll raise my hand. I got the first shot because, at the time, I think, how far back is that going? 3 years, 4 years?
Oh, yeah, probably 3.
3 years?
Yeah.
Then, okay. So I'm 66.
Yeah, so you're thinking, here's the parameters that they're giving. I'm in that bracket.
I'm in that bracket right there. And they're saying you take this and, you never have to take another and you'll never catch it. And you've got the antibodies. And you not only that, but you're not going to pass it on to anybody else if you happen to, get the virus. What they laid out everything like, okay, man, this is. I'd be stupid for not doing it.
And I knew so many people that only took it just because your situation, or oh my god, like I have a friend that would never have taken on her. Like she's just not one to get the flu shots, and it's just that's just not her thing.
I've never had a flu shot in my life,
and. So she gets it because, I can't give it to my elderly grandpa that I take care of. So, of course, I'm going to take one. And it turns out, just kidding.
Yeah, just kidding. Not only does it really not work, you still have to wear a mask. You can still transmit it. And guess what? There may be some long-range caution to this that we don't even know yet.
Well, that's what I was just...
And if you do get something, don't come back and sue us because,
can't.
we're...
And so in that, I went down this rabbit hole with my daughter in vaccines because so my son had a reaction to the vaccines, just the childhood one. So I started kind of going, what's going on with that? So it wasn't anything huge, but it was enough to make me go, what's going on with this? So, and then meeting Dr. Sears, he does this whole vaccine alternative schedule. So I started reading more about what's in them and blah, blah, blah. So when Ella was 6 months and going through her thing, that's when she first would have started her shots. And at the time, I'm like, to my pediatrician, I'm not comfortable with this because we don't know what her body's up against right now. We're going to have to wait. And she was respectful. She's like, well, why? And I was like, well, there's mercury in them and I'm not okay with that right now. And she got out the ingredient list and was like, well, and she was flabbergasted I was even questioning it, but she was okay. There are doctors that will kick you out of your office.
Well, I think that it all depends on your approach too. Right. I mean, there are a lot of people that are just, they're just fanatical about it, and
100%.
They're not going to listen to either side,
way, right?
And they're hard to talk to,
right? And I'm more just my son got them all. I didn't question it, but now my daughter's sick, and he had a little bit of issues with that. So then she's sick, and I'm like, I'm just not okay with any her body's fighting something. Yeah. So, but my eyes were somewhat open to vaccines and just the what ifs, and we're not saying, what and there's a whole thing about, do they cause autism, blah, blah. And my thing is there has not been any third party independent studies. The only small studies that were done were by the pharmaceutical companies themselves.
Right. Yeah.
So it's hard because from someone like me who's like, I'm in the middle, like I do question things, but I'm not anti by any means. But like, could you ask these few questions for me?
Yeah.
Without calling me names. So I think that's where a lot of people went with that. And then there's a Gardasil HPV vax that the older kids get that were kind of causing some problems for a while. So there's a little bit, I'm always like just listening, right? I'm not, over the top of things. It's more just like, oh, let me just hear about that or look into that a little bit. So it kind of opened my eyes for the HPV. There wasn't a lot of long-term studies on that, and we're giving it to our older, younger kids. So then and it's more about the ingredients in each one. Like it's more about the preservatives. It's simple as that. It's the preservatives. So when the new vaccine came out for COVID, I'm like, what's the what? So listen. I miss hippity dippity organic now. I am looking at everything. What is in this thing?
Yeah. How was this put together?
Yeah. It's just like, okay, well, if they think and they're speculating that the autism may be caused by mercury and thimerosal in these vaccines. Okay, well, what are these preservatives? Oh, this might open up a whole other can of worms too. But okay, so vaccines, live viruses have to be kept on some kind of DNA, right? Mm-hmm. They're either aborted fetal cells or they're monkey liver. Period. That's not like conspiracy theory. That's just the science of it. So in my thinking, and this is just the thoughts of Dara Ree. I'm not a brain, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a scientist, but I'm thinking, okay, so there's these live DNA that we're putting in people, and all these people are having autoimmune issues. Like, could it be that there's foreign DNA in your body? I don't know. Things to think about. And I don't know. I really don't know.
Right.
I'm just like going, huh.
But I think that's what we need more today is people that do just say, I don't really know, but
but can
really
we check it out?
Right.
Like, can the people that do this for a living?
Yeah, and then you have to question when they don't. Why are they not?
And that's okay. That the whole reaction to this, and you can't question that.
Yeah.
And then Pfizer's they did this whole we're gonna hide that there's aborted fetal cells in there. It's like, okay, well now you're just freaking you're being deceitful.
Right.
Let people make educated decisions.
Yeah, but see, and that's again that takes us into that whole realm of what is truth. Mm-hmm. What is where do we find the truth? Who's going to tell me the truth? And now they've convoluted it so fucking much. Somebody could be telling me the truth, and I'm not really sure I'm going to believe them.
And it's like I'm listening.
Because where's it coming from?
100%. And it's like, okay, a good example. I'm listening to Fauci. Oh, you can't. You're gonna. Okay, if you got COVID, you still have to get the vaccine. Okay, going back to I'm just a mom over here. Well, when my daughter was 2, she got chicken pox before she got her round of vaccines. She had a mild case of chicken pox. My doctor goes, oh, okay, we'll check that off the vaccine list because she's already had it. So her body already has the natural immunities. You don't need this vaccine anymore. Now exactly. I got Fauci going, oh, yeah, COVID. No, you still got to get the vaccine. And it's like, okay, well, now you're defying everything that we were ever taught. So what's true?
We don't know. And especially from him. I mean.
No, I don't trust him as far. But it's just like.
So many things have been said during this whole period of time that have come out later not to be true. That, and I'm with you. I'm not a scientist. I'm not the smartest man in the world. But when somebody keeps telling me things that later on I find out aren't true, wear a mask. Wear a mask. It's going to protect you. It's going to protect all those around you. Oh, wait a minute. No, the masks really don't do anything.
Right.
So you kidding me?
And
I'm sorry. The guy just, in my amateur way of thinking, that guy just needs to go retire because his credibility is gone.
And he lost his credibility pretty much the day he walked out on the stage. I mean, all of them,
Yeah.
I mean, but everything that I thought did come full circle came true, but he's still spouting. And here's the thing. There's people that are terrified.
Surely.
Terrified. And it's just like, that is just not okay to scare the holy Jesus out of people.
Yeah.
Just in the name of whatever
you're
doing, I don't know.
Yeah. Whatever the purpose was, I don't know, because again, we're all in this together. Mm-hmm. We're all human beings. We're all living in the same country, and even though this is a worldwide, mm-hmm. epidemic, we're all in this thing together, and we're all wanting what's mm-hmm. in the best interest of everybody. Mm-hmm. And if they could say without doubt, go this direction, mm-hmm. and all is good, you would get the whole country to go in that one direction, because we'd be able to believe it. We'd be able to trust it, because they would do some research on it. But the way that it is now, and the way that our whole society is splintered, mm-hmm. and the way you can listen to one news program and they're going to tell you one thing, and you listen to the other news program, they're going to tell you something else. It's to a point, I'm not going to listen to either one
I don't
of them.
either. Yeah,
I'm not going to go down that path and pick a side, and then, because then what ends up happening is you'll pick a side, and then that's the only side you want to listen to.
Right.
And I don't want to listen to either one of them.
Well, the thing of it is, what do you do throughout life? Whether you're a scientist or anything, you question things, right?
Yeah.
So all of a sudden we're not allowed to question things.
Yeah.
And we're conspiracy theory. I'm sorry, do you know how many things in life?
Yeah.
My life wouldn't have happened if I didn't go, wait a minute, this is kind of not adding up here.
Yeah. We are just not good people if we don't listen to the narrative mm-hmm. and run with it. Right. And I'm not saying what side that narrative is, pick a side. Mm-hmm. But they don't want you down the middle and being strong mm-hmm. down the middle. If they're in the middle, they want to make you weak and subservient. They don't want either side. Mm-hmm. You're either with me or you're against me. That's the dumbest thing I could ever see.
I mean, how many people have lost friends and family member because they fell for that hook, line?
Yeah. Well, one of the things for me is I don't mind talking to people about certain things, mm-hmm. but my opinions are my opinions, mm-hmm. and they're not up for debate.
No.
And so if somebody wants to debate my opinion, I won't talk to them. Mm-hmm. I just don't need to. I don't need to argue. I don't need to, stamp my feet. I don't need to be so freaking set in my mm-hmm. way that, I don't want to ruin my life. I don't want to ruin my health by arguing and fighting for something. Right. Okay, it's only a belief, people. Have yours. If yours works for you, rock on.
And my thing, Eric's in a band, and some of his band members had very strong opinions than others.
Sure.
And I just felt like, if the vaccine and taking it makes you comfortable and it puts you out of fear, please, by all means, I am going to be happy for you, and I'm going to be cheering you on all the way. If I don't take it, please have the same respect for me.
Exactly. And that's just
I am just as terrified as a vaccine as you are COVID. Can we be cool?
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? Yeah. It's the same fear.
Yeah. Yeah. And you I think what it really boils down to is, one of the things, when I first started doing podcasts, one of my main goals was to talk about just human beings, human nature. That's mm-hmm. how come everybody that I have that comes on to this program mm-hmm. are people like you. We're just normal people. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to get, even if I could get, which I can't, I don't have the viewership or the clout or whatever mm-hmm. to get, some celebrity to come and sit in front of me. Mm-hmm. McConaughey's does,
he's busy.
Is busy that day. You know what I mean? So it's just normal people that need to get along with each other, need to spread some joy, spread some happiness, and stop with the fighting
Right.
and the bickering that's one of the things also about social media when you look at Instagram. How many times you come up on one of the reels or you see a posting and it's, two guys fighting at a baseball game
Yeah, I
or,
wouldn't.
or somebody fighting over road rage or,
Right.
they got these things about, Karen going off and screaming and yelling. You know what? I don't want to see it.
No.
I don't want to see it. That's bullshit.
Yeah.
I want to see somebody enjoying themselves. I want to see people getting along. I want to see, I want the whole thing when Black Lives Matter was going strong. It was like, you know what? That's fucking bullshit. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I got a lot of friends that are of color, and I don't.
100%.
Yeah, and
100%.
in talking color, whether it's me or whether it's them, doesn't come into the equation ever. And
that's what's crazy to me.
I can't tell you. I work with Hispanic people all day long in the construction industry. I get along with all of them.
Right. That's what
a beautiful thing. But
that's the thing is like, you guys, this is not real life.
No,
it is not real life. Like, oh my gosh. One of my neighbors at the time when this whole thing was going crazy, my neighbor's black, he's from Virginia, and he's like, walking around like with a total chip on his shoulder. He's like, I'm like, dude, you're on Long Beach.
Yeah.
You need to stop.
Yeah,
like,
get along.
really, you're living in one of the nicest neighborhoods in Long Beach. Please with yourself.
Yeah.
Well, you don't know. I'm like, you want to play that game? Oh, I'm a woman. You might rape me.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, you want to go there?
Yeah.
We could be victims. Everybody could be a victim.
But what the bottom line is, what I find is that everybody that I come in contact with, that I make eye contact with, that I smile at, and that I ask, hey, how are you doing? How's your day going? All of them. To every single one, nice people,
right?
Happy people,
exactly.
That's
what I say. This
hey,
isn't reality.
Doing good. How are you?
This isn't reality.
And it doesn't matter their color. It doesn't matter their.
No. I was telling people during this whole Black Lives Matter thing. I'm like, okay, I don't know if you noticed, but I'm white. So you would think I'd be in this club. In my lifetime, and I am not joking, I have met one truly racist person in my life. Yeah. You would think I'd be in the club, right?
Nope.
Where are they all?
Yeah, I don't know.
Where are they? Because
I don't know. I am not saying that.
And I'm not saying it doesn't exist.
I'm not saying it doesn't exist. I'm not saying that there haven't been issues.
Of course.
And I understand the whole thing with police officer, having, been a police officer myself, having boys that are police officers, upstanding. I'm going to tell you for a fact that 99% of all police officers are getting up every single day and going to work are good, kind, hardworking individuals that come home, have a family, coaching baseball, coaching football, love their wife, doing all the right things. And it's just a fucking job, people.
Exactly.
And it's a shitty job.
It's a horrible job.
Because all they do is see crap every single day.
You are pretty much seeing the worst of the worst.
Every day. And it's not like a normal job.
No.
It's not like a normal job where they're going and they're around happy people all the time. They very seldom see that. They're seeing the worst of the worst.
Exactly.
And then they're trying to protect everybody. And are there some renegades? Are there some guys that maybe should never have gotten the badge and slipped through the system?
Right.
Yes, absolutely. And those guys are ousted out of their job.
Right.
They're not respected. Though, good police officers, guys that go to work every day and do their job, do it well, they want to be respected for what they do. And if somebody is undermining that, they don't want anything to do with it.
Of course not, because it gives them a bad rap.
Right.
But, with the whole, most of the situations that have made national news and all the riots and stuff, those were situations where it's really hard for me to feel sorry for you. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, I know I will never get shot by the police.
Right.
Like, I know that. Because if I get pulled over, yes, sir. You know what I mean? So it's hard. I know that there are situations where maybe it could have been handled different.
Well, yeah, there definitely are. I mean, the situation that, kind of kicked off the whole Black Lives Movement and everything was wrong on so many levels. I mean, that guy went to prison, deserved to be in prison.
Oh yeah, yes, yeah. Right.
It wasn't like, oh, poor policeman. No. Even police officers, that dude's just an asshole and needs to go in prison and see you later.
100%.
I mean, that was.
I mean, I'm like a full on. I want the whole picture before I make judgment.
Yeah.
That was a hard one to be like, oof.
There was.
I don't know how you're gonna get out of that one.
I don't. You get out of it.
Yeah.
No way.
Like there's not.
My question was, how are you going to live with yourself after doing something like that? That was horrendous. But but as horrendous as it was still one incident.
Right.
And how many police officers are there across this nation?
Right.
And how many of them day to day have face to face with people of all color and and are doing a good job, doing the best job that they can, and trying to make the system work.
It's just hard because listen, I grew up in Long Beach all my life, so I know racism exists, especially in other parts of the country. But it's hard when I say I don't see color, I don't see color. Like, and people are like, oh, it's true. Like, if a house is on fire, I'm gonna go run in. Like, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I mean, if someone needs help, I don't know. It's hard. So, and I guess the bottom line is it's really hard to be accused of something that you're not.
Right.
And whether it be COVID vaccines and getting called all these things, it all boils down to when you're trying to be a good human being and you think you are a good human being, it's hard when you're told otherwise. Or blamed for something you didn't do.
Well, especially when it's unsubstantiated.
Right.
That's the hardest part. I mean, I'm not perfect. I mean, God knows I've made my fucking mistakes that I wish, like, I was saying earlier about the lady that was talking, about things she did when she was young. Yeah, there are a lot of things I look back at and I wish, oh my God, I wish I did that one thing.
Right.
But there would be a whole bucket full of those one things.
Right.
But, we're all human and we all make mistakes and we all say things or do things or whatever that, in the moment either didn't think about it or thought it was okay or, just, did whatever. And
I truly think, like, just in my day-to-day life, like, I was telling this to someone who I think it was right around maybe the right time, or she's got mixed kids, so she was concerned. I'm like, you need to think about just think about every day. You go to the grocery store, you pick up your kids from school. Yeah. What's your environment like? Your day is people smiling, saying hi, how are you, holding the door open for you. That is reality.
Yes.
What's on the news and what's on social media is not the reality. Like, so just try to get out of that and just think about your day to day.
My goal when I'm out and I'm around people is to make people smile.
Me too.
I go out of my way to make sure that people that I don't know.
Oh,
smile.
I mean, if I see someone walking out, smile.
Yeah.
Wave hi.
Yeah. I don't
hold the door open for people.
Yeah, I don't care who
you want to cut me off.
Yeah.
Go ahead. You want that parking spot I was waiting for?
Oh,
Go ahead.
You know what? People on the freeways, I swear to God, because I drive so much for work that I very seldom get out of the slow lanes anymore. I mean,
I'm totally happy here.
I don't pay attention to it because I don't have to be any place that fast.
Like, there's nothing that's.
And so I'll be in the right two lanes. I'll find myself doing 55 miles an hour, following a big semi truck with cars going past me, and I realize. I could get around. I can get around him now. I don't think about it because I've got a podcast going, or I'm on the phone talking to people, or doing whatever it is that I'm doing. And time is just passing, and I know I got to be someplace. I know I'm going to get there. And if I were to go around that truck and get out in the fast lane and do 10 miles an hour faster and go in and out of traffic, I may get there 5 minutes faster.
Right.
Maybe.
Right.
And I could have pissed off all kinds of people
Right.
or gotten in an accident or gotten,
So true.
whatever. But for me just to go slow and take my time, it's a lot easier on my blood pressure, I guarantee you.
So true. So true.
So I don't know. So going back to the baby formula, and you've got it now to a point to where you've got a manufacturer, you're packaging it, you can ship it all over the place. There's a little bit more to that story.
Oh, okay.
What happened?
So everything was going fantastic. And then June of 2021, I got a call from the FDA. So, I knew I could never call it infant formula. So the FDA basically the FDA does not, infant formula is not a supplement. So it's not approved per se, but the FDA does regulate formula. So what that means is the big pharmaceutical companies, you go to the grocery store, you see a whole aisle of formulas. They're all basically boiled down to 3 to 4 pharmaceutical companies that are private labeling them. So the FDA basically make sure they're in compliance, that it meets a certain amount of nutritional minimum. There's a set minimum nutritional needs for 0 to 12 months, and then it can only have XYZ. So what's funny is the FDA actually allows a lot of stuff that I personally wouldn't want my baby to have. Like it allows a certain amount of heavy metals. It allows a certain amount of hexane. So there's a laundry list of things that they will allow, but I don't think that's okay. But anyway, so you cannot be a small little company like myself and go, oh, I manufacture infant formula because the FDA has it on lockdown. So basically, they try to say like, oh, you need to do XYZ to be able to be infant formula, but you really can't because I'm not a pharmaceutical company. So I couldn't ever meet those guidelines. So I never said on anything infant. I was always super careful to either say child or children. I keep it along those lines. But because most of my people came from doctor referrals, most people didn't question it. So in June of 2021, the FDA basically, hey, can we come talk to you? So basically, I basically said, I'm not selling formula. I don't pretend to be formula or infant. This is always for older toddlers, blah, blah, blah. So they went to my manufacturer and was there for 2 solid days, 2 solid 8-hour days. My manufacturer, the owner's called me. He's like, what is going on? He's like, the FDA shows up all the time. It's nothing new. They're here for an hour or 2. He's like, what's going on? I'm like, they won't tell me. I don't know. So they basically went through everything there. Didn't find anything. But again, they're looking for infant. They keep trying to get me on infant. I'm like, there's nothing infant. There is nothing that says infant. They don't think they're because they're trying to then almost get the manufacturer in trouble. My manufacturers think it's a toddler formula. So we call it a toddler formula, anything from 12 months and up. If a doctor wants to prescribe it for less than that, they're doctors. They could do whatever there's nutritionists, there's doulas.
Or if somebody wants to buy it and on their own volition.
Yeah, listen. You can make cocaine crystal out of Sudafed. Okay. They can do what they want.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
we won't compare the two, but
we won't. So anyway, but what's funny? So they, came in and interviewed me. I'm like, I don't call it infant. I don't know what you're talking about. Infant formula. I don't know.
Yeah.
So what they did ask is that I do a voluntary recall, and then I add verbiage from 12 months and up, which I did. But what happened is that people see recall and they just panic. They don't see why, that it was just for label issues. So,
and you couldn't say that when you...
I could, but so the truth is I didn't think it would affect my business the way it did. I really thought nobody's going to care. they know, most people in this world don't care.
Right.
If they're feeding their infant the formula, they've either gotten okay from their doctor or they don't care, for whatever reason. So I didn't think it would affect my business the way it did. And it took a couple months for all of a sudden my sales just plummeted. So there's two parts to it. My company is always getting new business because kids usually stay on it 2 to 3, sometimes 4. I do have older kids on it, like 5 and 6, just because going back to the nutrition and stuff. Mm-hmm. So it really took a hit once the FDA did that.
Have you seen an upturn since then, though?
Not really.
Has it dropped off and then stayed flat?
It stayed flat.
What about the doctors that were prescribing it? Are they still on board? And
oh yeah, they were like, they didn't care. Yeah. They're like, so the one doctor, he would before he found me, he would always recommend this one called Babies Only. So there's a lot of formulas out there that are in the same situation that I am, that they just have to say toddler. Mm-hmm. They just can't get through the red tape. Well, another thing too is, even if I want, like somehow miraculously I could find a way to get through the red tape, they don't allow goat milk of any kind. They won't even entertain it, the FDA. And what's sad about that is there's such a huge problem with people having allergies to cow anything.
Yeah.
So it's a bummer. I mean, I hope sometime in my lifetime I could see that change, but I mean, it's just on such a lock and key. So I don't know. I don't know like what the future holds.
Yeah.
I've been working with a marketing company, just trying to figure out, like to market as best as we can around it. We're going to be going on Amazon soon. So the bummer right now is that if you start to type in Design by Nature in Google, the first thing that comes up is it will start to autofill recall. So until we get that, and then like the FDA recalls, right, like second and third in the search. So until that, we could
can you put something on the website?
Oh, we did. Yeah. Oh, we did.
The recall was due to labeling.
Yeah, but I think it's kind of a little too late. Like, I don't know if they would even go there, if So, I don't know. We're working on it, so we'll see.
Yeah, and you really couldn't, I imagine, change names in the meantime.
Well, I don't know.
Because that would put you.
It's more of an issue with. So the new people are coming through, and it's so sad because with the formula shortage, the people. I mean, it's so sad that you could help fill in that gap, and you just can't.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think a name change, because then I'm still back to that. I guess in the 0 to above 12. I don't know if it's that's doing it, or if it's the recall, or I don't know.
Yeah.
Because it's weird, because a lot of people were referrals, so I don't know that they're necessarily Googling Design by Nature, or if they're going straight to the website. I don't know. I mean, the only thing I could think of it is that. But if we go to the good news is that we're scheduled to go to Amazon the first quarter of this year. And once you're on Amazon, people usually just look at the reviews on Amazon. We have amazing reviews. Like, we have over 300 reviews. They're all 5-star, 4 to 5-star. And those are legit. Right. Like, we just don't get negative reviews.
Yeah.
Thank God. So if we could get those, positive reviews on Amazon, people will probably stop Googling. So that's kind of, we're holding our hope on.
It's just so sad that, the effort that has gone into this, mm-hmm. and the product itself, mm-hmm. the good reviews. I mean, it's so sad that once again, the FDA, which was, more than likely guided by the pharmaceutical companies.
Well, what's funny?
I mean, the guidelines were probably written by the pharmaceutical companies.
100%. Well, here's what's funny. So when I asked them, I'm like, what's going on? Oh, well, someone reported you. Well, what's funny is probably like 4 to 6 months before they came knocking, I had an email from a very large baby formula company's CEO, basically what are you doing kind of thing. And I'm not responding to you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But basically, so I'm sure it was them. I'm sure it was one of the top manufacturers.
Yeah.
Stomping out the little guy.
Yeah, exactly. It's exactly. And that's, we pride ourselves in our country, of small mom and pop, little businesses springing up that
the American dream.
Yeah, that are going to feed a family or feed maybe 2, 3, or 4 families, or small businesses that maybe even have 40, 50 people working for them. And I mean, that's what has made our country through all these years, is that desire to be an entrepreneur. And it is such a shame that our politicians, our government agencies are so in bed with large corporations that want to do nothing more than to
take out the little
just
guy.
Take out the little guy and have a monopoly. Right. So that if they're the only ones making the baby formula, they can charge whatever they want.
Right.
They can do whatever they want.
100%.
And, so the day that small companies like you, people that think outside the box like you, that come up with a good product, the day that ceases is the day that, we are going to be,
Right. And what's sad?
Only one way to go, and that's going to be large corporations.
Oh, 100%. And what's sad is just the lot. Like, this was not, I didn't set out to do this, was purely out of trying to save my child.
Yeah.
And the amount, every ingredient, was handpicked. I have third party, like I said, going back to, the FDA allows heavy metals and hexane. I third party tested. I spent so much money on getting, because I even want to, for myself, I'm like, you know what? Yeah, I'm buying these ingredients and these are the claims that they say, but you know what? I'm going to third party check this and make sure it is what it really, I've spent thousands and thousands of dollars third party checking to make sure there is no heavy metals. There are no, it's tested for over 301 pesticides and chemicals. It's so clean. Yeah. And it just sucks. I can't help babies that are sick. And they've tried it all. That's what's hard, is the people that have tried it all. And they're like, I have no other options.
Well, I think that, and that's just my belief, and maybe it's naive, but I still believe that people with good intentions, people with good hearts, people willing to work, invest, and drive something that is good for others will succeed.
I hope.
Will succeed.
I hope.
Because you're gonna find there's gonna come a point in time when you're gonna look around, you're gonna think, there's a lot of people rallying around me. There's a lot of people that have enjoyed this product. There's a lot of people that have told other people about this product. And because it's a good product, because you put a lot of effort into it, it's done correctly, it's helping, it has to be successful.
Right.
It will be.
Right.
It's a little bump and being tested on, on your wherewithal. And
yeah, that's true.
yeah. But
yeah, we'll see.
We'll see.
I'm still keeping on.
That's what you got to do.
I'm trying to do workarounds and.
Yeah, you just keep doing it.
Right.
Just keep doing it. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep. It's a good thing.
Right.
It's really a good thing, and you've helped a lot of people out already, and I think through that and through just word of mouth, it's going to rebuild itself, because it wasn't as though you did something to cause a problem.
Right.
The problem was basically created on the outside and brought to you and said, here's your problem.
Right.
Fix it if you can.
Yeah. And I do, it took 10 years to build to that point.
Sure.
Of 2 years ago going down. So, it might take another few years to build back up. We'll see.
It may take another year or two, whatever. Amazon sounds like that's going to be, a good step forward for you. And I think really once it takes off again, you're going to find it's going to take off.
Yeah, I hope so.
It's going to
be. And
I
think too, we have great reviews. We do great on customer stuff. I do like, it's not a customer unhappy problem. Like
Right.
we really do try to just be there for our customers.
Right.
And we have live chat. We have, we're so available. So the good news is it's not bad publicity with customers.
So right now, for people that are listening, what's the best way to get in touch? What is the best way to
just go to the website, designedbynature.net.
Mm-hmm.
The catch. And then it's just a live website. There's a chat. We're on social media. Instagram is Designed by Nature Kids. And then Facebook's just Designed by Nature.
Great.
Yeah.
There it is.
Thanks. There it is.
Well, oh, look at that. Yeah, it's even got the goat milk, cow's milk. Nice.
That's my baby. So the logo up there, that's Ella, my little... You met Ella.
Yes. She's not little anymore.
Oh, she's my sassy little preteen.
All right, Dara.
All right. Thanks,
Thank
Mike.
you. It's been great having
I know.
you. It's been a good conversation.
We went off on lots of tangents. You have a lot of editing to do, bro.
No, we don't edit. It is what it is.
It's out there
It
now.
goes out there.
We're getting canceled.
Yeah, that's the nice thing about podcasts. We get to say whatever we want to say. So, anyways, thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.